We're about to do a wellness check on you.
Air Force.
Glad you're here. And thank you for removing your mask. All right. We're in standing committee, by the way. For those of you new to the committee, Senator Steele, I'm looking at you. We have a standing committee and we have a calendar committee. Calendar sets the calendar for the next legislative day. Standing committee acts just like any other committee. We can make amendments, pass things, whatever. So, all right, with that, I've got 3 bills we're going to try to get out of here today. HB 117, HB 377, and HB 483. I don't see any of my House members here. Senator Burns is here, and he is carrying HB 483, so why don't we start there?
I want to present for you the original version of HB 483. If you recall, at the end of last session, there were some adjustments made that ultimately did not bear fruit. So what this bill does, what this substitute does, is put HB 483 back into its original form. This is from Mr. Representative Brian Prince in the House. It basically protects code enforcement officials from assault, simple battery, or any aggravated battery. So it protects our code enforcement officials just like the protection they would enjoy or that our peace officers enjoy or other local elected officials enjoy. I ask the committee's favorable consideration.
Questions from the committee? Our majority whip, Senator Randy Robertson.
Chairman Burns, it's
sir.
good to see you.
Good to see you, sir.
You look warm.
I do. I'm warm.
Yeah, or as my daughter would say, worm.
Worm.
As code enforcement officers or as citizens of Georgia and employees of whatever, they already have protections against these, where they would be, if somebody assaulted them, the person could be charged with simple assault, ag assault, simple battery, and aggravated battery. What it seems like you're wanting to do is add the high and aggravated nature onto that because of the type of job and who their employer is. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, and Representative Prince
Yes.
is here as well. Do you want to add anything?
Listen, I'm sure sorry for being late. I thought I was a little later, but I'm sure Senator Burns has sort of squared you away on that. Basically, just some minor changes. And
How sure are you?
I'm pretty sure.
Pretty sure?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you, though, for the opportunity, though, Mr. Chairman.
All right, does anybody have any questions for the bill author or the Senate sponsor? I assume you're the Senate sponsor, right, Senator Burns? Okay. What's the will of the committee? I got a motion from my vice chairman. I got a second from Senator Albers. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. All right, motion carries unanimous. On the rules. Okay, next up, Representative Petrie. We have
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
HB 117.
HB 117, which was made it through this body last year. And we're starting back up again. Mr. Chairman.
Hold on. There was a substitute, wasn't there? Nobody made it.
Oh.
I've got this. Carry on.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to ask y'all to spread something around here. Pass these around. That's the best kind. All right, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, I'm going to do a little backstory on this because it's we've had a year to forget about it. I'm passing around some more recent data for all of you. I think I've given you the right one. that explains we've had about 5 occasions just since we left here last session. Y'all may have read in the news where we have discovered radioactive shrimp. Did y'all see those stories? So if you'll recall, last year we talked a lot about antibiotics and other chemicals in imported shrimp. We've had 5 occasions of radioactive shrimp discovered just since we left here. And I would remind everybody the FDA tests 0.7% of foreign shrimp. A whole lot of radioactive shrimp was consumed by American consumers, okay, if we caught that little of it. So I'm going to give you a brief reminder of what this bill is all about. House Bill 117, 94% of the shrimp consumed in the United States is imported. That is primarily from India, China, Ecuador, Vietnam, Thailand, and Indonesia, overwhelmingly China and India. They do not in those countries adhere to the same health standards, and the FDA does very limited 0.7% of inspecting on foreign shrimp. They are not inspected the way we do domestic shrimp. They have famously been contaminated with antibiotics. That is because these shrimp never see an ocean. They're farm-raised in man-dug pits. They're fed antibiotics because they swim in their own feces, and you have to keep them alive. So you feed them antibiotics. Antibiotics wind up in the product, and that's what, by and large, Americans are eating when you go to a restaurant today. And I'll mention restaurants because this bill is about food services. And so very simply, that's the issue. Now, people can choose to eat whatever they want. But I will give you a fact here. The FDA itself states that it achieves less than 5% of congressionally mandated inspections on foreign seafood facilities. China does not allow America to inspect its facilities. We're not allowed in those facilities, and yet we import billions of tons from them. So that's kind of the backdrop. Last year, I told you that in 2024, we had refused 84 shipments of shrimp due to antibiotics alone. And so having said all of that, this bill's pretty simple. All it does is tell consumers, if you're in a food service establishment in Georgia and you're serving imported shrimp, you must put on that menu or display prominently on a placard that says that those shrimp are imported. There's a lot of, I will add one thing to this. I'm a coastal boy for my family since the Revolution. So obviously, I love our shrimping fleet. It's been decimated. We've got about 10% of what we had historically. But here's what we do. A lot of places that sell shrimp pretend they're selling local shrimp, and we know concretely they are not. Okay? The consumers should know what they're eating, and that's what this bill is all about, is consumer transparency. We have excluded, you'll notice on line 12, food service establishments operated by a state agency. We have done that at the request of the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities, which of course is obviously wanted to be excluded from that. They aren't really providing menus to those that are living in state hospitals. If there's any questions, I'm glad to answer, Mr. Chairman. I know that was quick, but.
Any questions about radioactive shrimp? I'm getting lit up over here. Let's get the Dean of the Senate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Under the recall and common source on your handout,
Yes, sir.
if China does not allow the inspection, so where do we catch it? The FDA catches it where? Once it's in country or in port? Or,
Yeah, coming in.
Where does that occur?
Coming in a port of entry, yes, sir. And they're doing very random and a very small number of, it's interesting to your question. So 0.7% of seafood in the aggregate that is coming from overseas is inspected, but it has an exponentially higher rate of failure than domestic inspections. So it's pretty dismal
So when
figure.
it fails, what happens when it fails?
When it fails, it's returned.
Okay.
Yes, sir. If it fails, it is, as I mentioned, I think we had 81 whole shipments. Yeah, 81 failed in 2024, and they are literally returned. Now, here's what we know. Here's what's not official, but here's what we know what happens. A lot of those shipments that are returned are simply sent back on another ship. Because when you're inspecting something 0.7% of the time, you can roll the dice and more than likely, you're not going to be inspected, correct?
Yes,
So, listen, it's real simple. These shrimp are not the same quality of domestic shrimp. I'd like our domestic fishermen to understand they're important. They're selling a more quality product, safer for Americans, and let consumers
And one
make that
follow-up
decision.
question, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes, sir.
So how do we determine once they import, we have Geiger counters or something to detect that they're radioactive, or we get a tip or something? Or
Yes, sir.
how does that
I
work?
can't speak to the details of that, but yes, they have a way to, they test DNA. So we recently in Savannah and on the Golden Isles, you have a company that was paid for by the shrimping industry nationally that's done this all over the country. They can do a simple test and tell you whether or not a shrimp is imported or if it's domestic. They're literally different species. And so they can tell you whether it's a domestic shrimp and whether a restaurant is pretending they're serving domestic shrimp or not. And so the way a lot of folks do this, and this relates to the fair trade provisions, but if you have, so let's say you've got a restaurant and you've got shrimp boats on the wall, okay? You're decorating with things that suggest you're serving local shrimp, and then you aren't. Well, that is misleading to consumers, right? So a lot of that's going on, and sadly, a lot of that's going on in my hometown, where we have a lot of tourism, and a lot of tourists think they're eating domestic shrimp, and very few are.
Thank you, sir.
Sadly.
Thank you,
Yes, sir.
Chairman.
All right, and just to clarify for the committee, every bill we're doing today we're actually doing substitutes. So on this one, 117, we're working off of LC 44303. It's not?
Else,
Oh, I'm sorry. We're working off of LC 600252S. Is that?
yes, sir, that's correct.
Is that
Mr.
got the
Chairman.
language you
Yes, sir,
want?
that is,
Okay.
that is the
All right.
new Senate sub. Yes, sir.
And I'm sure that new language actually probably clarifies some questions, but Senator Hofstetler still has one.
Yeah, actually, maybe 3 questions, if that's okay. But the
I'll
first one
allow.
would be,
Depending.
why are you looking just at shrimp? I know about maybe 1% of all seafood imported is tested. I know catfish is a big problem, swahi, the substitute for it, that kind of stuff. Why are we just singling out shrimp of all the seafood imported?
Great question, sir. This bill began, I introduced it as a bill that would relate to all seafood products. And this was a compromise to get it passed because the restaurant industry saw it as very cumbersome if they had to change menus constantly because it was a multitude of products that come from a multitude of countries. It also was a country of origin bill at first, where it literally wasn't just explained if it wasn't just made prominent that it was imported, but that where it was from. So that is one of the changes that was made through the process in the House. Very good question, sir.
And another question, if I could follow up, is do you see any inflationary impact on prices from this?
No, sir. I think what will happen is the American fishermen cannot provide all of the shrimp demand in America. That's not going to change. But I think that consumers will know whether they're eating imported shrimp or domestic. They will pay more for domestic shrimp, but a restaurant can choose whether or not they're going to serve that. Some will, some won't.
And then last question, if I can follow up, what's the remedy if a restaurant doesn't have a sign up and they're selling foreign shrimp?
Well, what would happen is if this bill passes, rules and regs will be drafted by the Department of Environmental Health, which does surveys of food service establishments. So it would be part of their inspections in a food service. So if they go in, they're inspecting a food service, a restaurant, they're going to expect that the menu is going to match what the labeling is on the product in the freezer.
So,
Thank you.
Thank you,
I've
sir.
got a question. Do you happen to know, because you had stated that foreign shrimp are cheaper typically?
Oh, yeah, very much so. Yeah, they're being dumped here intentionally. So they use unfair trade practices. And the industry is trying to get those addressed, and some of that, well, may be addressed. But
Are there no tariffs on the shrimp?
on some of these countries, no tariffs at
know
all. On some, there are.
Okay.
But what happens is, so Ecuador, for example, and by the way, U.S. aid that we recently did some cutting on, literally was paying Ecuador. We were giving money to Ecuador to create farm-raised shrimp to sell to Americans and compete with American fishermen. That's the craziness of this situation. But I digress a little bit. So they're dumping those products here in such large volumes that the American fishermen can't compete. You can't compete.
I've got another question from Senator Robertson.
Representative, do you know if the shrimp harvests in Georgia over the past few years have gone up or down as far as the amount of shrimp we've
I
harvested off
can't
our
tell you
coast?
precisely. I can tell you it's almost certainly going down. Last year, we didn't hardly have a boat in the water. I mean, there was no demand for. So Ecuador has been dumping huge volumes of shrimp, and so it depresses the price of shrimp to such a degree that American fishermen just didn't get out in the water much.
So it was economic
Unless
impact.
they sell locally.
It was economic impact that lowered our harvest as opposed to
Absolutely.
not having enough shrimp in the water?
Oh, there's plenty. The fishery is being unfished. Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, we had minimally 10 times the fleet previously. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
It's been decimated.
Any other further questions? All right, what's the will of the committee?
I'd like to make a motion for due pass on,
shrimp,
for
yeah.
the substitute House Bill 117.
I'd like to second that.
All right, I have a motion due pass of LC 600252S by substitute by my vice chairman, Senator Ben Watson, from the 1st Senate District,
Home of the shrimp.
from the first city in Georgia, on the coast of Georgia, in the United States of America. And I got a second from the President Pro Tem, Larry Walker III, who lives slap dab in the middle of the state, not near the coast, but closer than me. But I have shrimp coming down the Chattahoochee. Okay, I got a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries unanimous. On the rolls you go.
Thank you, Chairman.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
All right. And point of clarification, as I stated a minute ago, all these bills we're passing, hopefully if they pass, by substitute, because they went back to their original form. And so there's a few changes that are being made. So HB 117 was passed by substitute, and that was LC 600, wait, is that right? No, I'm sorry, 483. 483 was passed by substitute. That's enough. All right, next up. What's my last bill? 377. Representative Leverett here. He's my Senate sponsor. Do you want to present it, or do we want to punt?
This, right now, it's the same bill that we passed last year. It's on qualifications-based selection. We passed it 54-1. House messes up some different things. So but we're back to where we are, same bill that we passed 54-1 last year. Ed's going to present it on the floor, so not a whole lot. Be glad to get Sully or Christie to come up and talk about it if you want to hear more details with ACEC. No, this is on qualification-based selection for local government.
Sully, you back there, Christie? One of y'all want to come give us a little more information than the great senator from the 47th had for
Read
us?
your text message.
Yes.
I'm trying to get out.
I'm working. I can't answer text right now.
My name is Christy Torello. I'm the Director of Government Affairs for ACC Georgia. This is just SB 51, passed SLOGO last year unanimously, passed the Senate floor 54-1. It's in the House, hanging out there. You guys put this substitute on 377 last year, and the only change from SB 51 and this is the effective date. It's pushing it out to 2027. But this deals with qualifications-based selection for architects and engineers for local government projects. Right now, that is the state law for all state agencies, and this just requires us on the local government level.
Any questions? All right, Senator Kelzer.
Our summary from Senate Research, it says this would apply to any contracts for 75,000 or more to treat them like state, and that just want to make sure that this doesn't capture that range of 20,000 to 250 that wouldn't have to have a second bid.
The bill does change that slightly. The $20,000 to $200,000 component provision for local governments would prohibit qualifications-based selection for like road projects for roads and bridges for cities and counties. So this just clarifies that you would be able to do that.
So you can do basically a no-bid contract up to 250, or only if it's over, or you have to get a second bid if it's over 75?
So you would have to utilize qualifications-based selection for any professional services that are estimated to be $75,000 or
Okay.
above. This would not require bids at first. You would just analyze their qualifications, and then you would rank the respondents 1 to 5 or ever many you want, and then you would ask for the price.
Okay.
Senator Dolezal.
Thank you for walking us through that. That's in that sequence when you said rank them 1 through whatever, then ask for the price. Then what? What comes after that?
You would start formal negotiations. So if you can't agree on the price with the highest ranked firm, and the local governments, to be clear, they get to decide what qualifications they consider, and they get to rank it. That preserves local control there. If they couldn't come up with some kind of price negotiation that they agree on, they would just move to number 2, and then so on.
Do the same thing, I assume. And I didn't catch what you said as it relates to roads. Are you saying that's just roads don't come into play in terms of actual road construction here? That remains in a low bid posture?
And there's a provision in state law that says like between $20,000 and $200,000 for state cities and counties. They have to have 2 bids, and that would prohibit qualifications-based selection from being utilized in those instances. So this just clarifies that you would be able to utilize qualifications-based selection for roads and bridges.
And if this law does not pass, what's the current procurement process? Is it a low bid procurement process for these types of services?
It would just require 2 bids at least. But the problem with some of the smaller local governments is that they're not even getting 2 respondents. So they can't even be, they can't follow the law because they're not getting 2 respondents. So this would allow them to utilize qualifications-based selection. There's also a provision that says if you only get 1 respondent, you can continue with the procurement.
So currently, in the current state of the law, you're not allowed to consider qualifications. Is that correct?
Just in that weird instance between like $20,000 and $200,000, you would have to require 2 bids for roads and bridges for cities and counties. So I believe Section 1 and Section 2 of the bill deal with that.
I'm really confused. Would it be okay if I ask a couple more clarified questions? I'm not trying to be difficult. Can I ask a few more? I don't understand what the bill's doing. Can you just tell us what
Yeah, okay.
what this does?
So this just would require that local governments follow qualifications-based selection for the procurement of architectural engineering services, also interior designers because they do load-bearing walls, land surveyors, and landscape architects. If the project is deemed to be $75,000 or above for professional services, those services that I just listed, they would have to use qualifications-based selection. If the project is projected to be $1 million or above for the total construction cost, they would have to use qualifications-based selection. That is state law on the state agency level right now. This would just require that the locals also follow that procurement.
How would you describe the process of what they're doing, the selection process right now without capacity?
So a lot of them are utilizing qualifications-based selection. Some people or some local governments are utilizing just low bid, which is one of the worst procurement practices for architects and engineers. Primarily because when you're asking for design services, you don't know exactly what you're trying to get. So creating a bid based on something that hasn't been designed is a little more difficult than, like, say, on the construction side. Or they utilize best value, where price is just a component, but studies have shown that once price is part of the procurement practice, or part of the procurement process, that kind of chokes out everything else. So this would just say that qualifications are what you should consider first, and then you rank those firms highest to whatever. They might all be qualified, and then you enter formal price negotiations.
In the areas that are more populated, they're not going to have this single issue, they're not be able to get bids. Are there elements of this bill that prevent essentially bid steering, that allow the creation of qualifications that essentially create a sole source contract? Because this will allow the awarding of a contract if only one bid is submitted. Is that correct?
Well, that's only if, like, you get one response. When you have some of these larger populations, you're not just going to get one response.
You would if it was so strict that only one firm met the criteria. That's kind of what I'm getting to. Like, are there elements of this bill that prevent strategic steering of contracts via the stated qualifications? Are there best practices around the qualifications that would be listed?
There are recommendations for the types of qualifications that local governments can consider in their during their procurement practice, but the goal of the bill is to allow more competitiveness. ACC Georgia represents about 280 firms, and 60% of our firms are 60 individuals or fewer. So this is seen as a pro-small business policy. This is something that we've been working on for over a decade and far precedes my time with the organization.
All right, got another question from Chairman Kaiser.
Just sort of going back on the legislative history of this bill. The original House bill dealt with mobile homes. Had nothing to do with procurement process. Did you have a similar bill to this one that was ever introduced in the House or the Senate that dealt with bids and qualified
Yes.
vendors? What was that bill number and what committee was it assigned to?
HB 152.
Did it
I
pass
believe.
the House?
It did not pass the House.
Okay.
SB 51 did pass House Government Affairs. And this bill is SB 51,
Okay.
the substitute.
So it passed House Government Affairs but never came to the floor of the House last year? That's
Correct.
identical to this one?
Yes, the only change is the effective date, because when we were talking with the local governments, we said that we would give them like a year and a half. So SB 51 says an effective date of July of 2026. This says July 2027.
Any other questions? All right, look, I'm gonna hold the vote on this until the House sponsor is able to make it and maybe clarify some of our questions for us, and maybe give him a little more time to educate the committee. And so with that, meeting is adjourned. Thank you, Vice Chairman.